Hi everyone, so it's that time of the season again. A Banwave has happened just last night, and while we don't know exactly all the specifics of how big it was and all these things, I hope that we can find out more after this video or maybe from comments. And we had a lot of people actually coming in on the stream last night telling us that they got banned and all that stuff is happening, so we tried to investigate this a little bit. So this is actually the second Banwave that has happened. There was one very early in the season, and I know that, for example, Norfa was here. He said that he was like ranks 965 and he moved up, well, almost 50 spots already, and this is with at least not all of them being removed from the leaderboards yet. So there are definitely like a lot of like high-end, high paragon botting people that have been banned. For example, this one, but it's for example still here on the leaderboards and the profile is still there. So it's sometimes a bit RNG whether the profile gets deleted immediately or if the leaderboard rank gets deleted immediately. But there are definitely some examples of, you know, people gone missing. And for example, there was like 150, I think, VR that has disappeared, for example, and these kind of things. So it seems like, as pretty much always in the last like 5 years or so, the ban wave has been for botting. So if you got banned, then most likely that's the reason. And if you see people vanishing from your friend list and all that, then this is probably also the reason. Now there will be a lot of people asking like, why is this one obvious cheater not getting banned, and why is this guy still there, and is this really legit? So obviously you can find many examples on leaderboards of extremely high paragon people, especially if you go to the 4-player leaderboards. But you can see that, you know, there are especially DPS players that have vanished from some of these teams. There's only like 2 support guys left, for example. So this is like a very common picture after such a ban wave. And, you know, lots of the super high paragons are gone. If you also remember, earlier in the season we had this GoD Demon Hunter exploit that produced these like sub 1 minute solo 150 clears. And we had the same on 4-man. So there were a lot of clears, especially in China. They abused this very heavily. Literally the entire Demon Hunter leaderboard, 1,000 spots, was you know, filled with these exploited clears, and that was fixed a few days later, but no actions had happened outside of China until now. So I don't know exactly if they actually also banned for the exploit, because it was extremely valuable. Of course, if you blast GR150 in like a minute or less, then you can get you know, ridiculous amounts of XP that are otherwise absolutely unreachable. So something like 50 trillion plus XP per hour, which is like 5 to 10 times faster than, you know, most people could ever hope for, is obviously way out of the norm, and it would have to be punished in some way. In China there was like a 2-week timeout for these people, which is obviously way too low, but in the other regions nothing had happened until now. The thing is that most likely most of the exploiters are probably overlapping with botting, so we can't really tell for sure if someone was using the exploit and got banned just for that, or if they were also botting and got banned for the bots instead. So maybe if there's, you know, an example of one of you guys that knows someone who wasn't botting but did exploit but got banned, that would be interesting to know, I guess. Also, in the early season when I made a video about the GoD exploit, I promised to also explain how it works after a fix, but I delayed that explanation until a ban wave actually happened, because I kind of want to combine the two topics. And here we are. The way this works, or this worked rather, is that you lag out the game as much as possible with a GoD Demon Hunter, and if you have this set equipped, you were able to get infinite momentum stacks by like bugging out the game with those lags. So people went into, for example, cow level. There were also some, like, you know, certain bounties that spawn a lot of enemies, and then you have all the area damage in the world, all the dot effects in the world with no damage on your character. So you have like toxin, gem, pain enhancer, whatever, just to like lag out as much as possible, and then you just keep shooting and spinning, and at some point your momentum, instead of going up, would just go down. And in that moment you would have infinite amount of damage, as long as you never use your primary skill again to kind of refresh the momentum. So you had to actively not play the build properly to actually produce that bug. And like this you could go into GRs and chain them one after another with an extremely tanky setup with all the movement speed you wanted, not having any damage on your character, and you would one-shot everything. So this is how those 1 minute 150 clears were produced. And if you actually want to see how good of XP per hour this actually is, you can see this example here from my Impale 150 attempt, where I had a Ring of Fire chain that gave me basically 100% progression in a matter of 30 seconds. So this is pretty similar to what those exploited clears were doing all the time. So just look at my XP bar here and you can see how it rises, literally like a bar per second or so. And from this entire pull here, I get something like, I think 7 bars of XP, and I'm at 3,300 paragons already. So you can, literally get 1 or 2 or 3 levels per minute, even at that level, which is, absolutely ridiculous. So obviously this, would have to be punished in some way. So this is already it for the news that I have to share here. In general, it's good to see Banwaves happening more frequently again. So this has been a problem in some seasons, but we already have the second one this time around. Maybe there's going to be another one later in the season, who knows. But purging the leaderboards regularly is definitely very welcome, and probably keeps up the morale and the motivation of especially the legit players. So let me know what you think. Maybe you also have some info about, certain very memorable clears on leaderboard that got removed. Especially like on the softcore leaderboards is usually where a lot of the cheaters are. On the hardcore leaderboards where I am located this season, I am not really aware of a lot of bans, but typically there's also not really a lot of botting going on anyway. There are a few examples like this guy here, for example, but typically there's not that much as in softcore where all the tryhards are. In any case, good news. Hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys next time.